Okay, so take it as read that I'm working in the background here this morning. I just ran into something I want to call the errors of projection and rejection. Okay, projection and rejection. All right, there is a concern about absolutism, whether it's absolute atheism or absolute terms of like any religion at all. Okay. The the concern about absolutism is that there's liable to be a bad consequence from any error that says, well, because I am absolutely right about X. Okay, now I can believe it. See, this is part of the Paralandra problem. I can believe what I believe for myself with all of my heart, soul, mind, and strength. Okay, but the problem, the problem of projection is, well, because I really believe this, I'm going to do what Ayn Rand called forcing a mind. In other words, I'm going to, because I believe it, because I'm absolutely right about this, dogmatic absolutism in like any tradition you like, kung fu, witchcraft. I don't care at this point. Trying to get at a principle of philosophical error. There's an error of projection, which is the moment you project, whatever you've written as your personal moral equation as, well, this is true for me, so it has to be true for that other guy over there. Okay? And because it is absolutely true for that other guy over there, that gives me the right to do XYZ. You end up with Napoleon. You end up with Adolf Hitler. Okay? You end up with Richard Dawkins. Hello? Okay, I'm trying to identify specific examples of people I obviously disagree with to make this as brief as possible. The other problem in science, and like this is, okay, let's presume under a corollary to Clarke's law that supposing I just developed it, I probably didn't, and there are probably other people speculating about this. I would welcome exchanges with them at this particular point. But let's assume that I developed this corollary to Clarke's law. Okay, what should be true according to my system for like both science and magic? Okay, let's just define like magic as the wisdom of other religions, okay, or the wisdom of alien religions. A religion that I don't understand, that because I don't necessarily buy into its primary premises or philosophical system, discipline of, see, I'm trying to approach the point at which there is no functional difference between calling it science or calling it wizardry. Okay, any wizardry that is sufficiently technical. Let's just take one that's attractive. Okay, George Lucas making Star Wars. Okay, does the average person who goes to see Star Wars understand all the tricks of the cameraman, the special effects department, so on and so forth? No. No. So the sense in which Walt Disney did magic to function, to found and to provide a foundation for the Magic Kingdom. All right. Again, deliberately crossing religious boundaries, planet wide. All right. Again, Walt Disney is one of these people that, like, if God is infinitely merciful, I've done research into the actual peccadillos of Walt Disney. Okay, but here's the thing: I'm not trying to make the argument that, like, Walt Disney got in because he is a religionist. Okay, or he is a Christian, or he is a Muslim, or he is a Jew, or whatever. I'm just saying that, that is an obvious example of someone that I would, like, prefer to be in my idealized version of heaven. Okay, so we're getting close to we're getting close to the problem of the breakdown of human symbols across, like, all systems whatsoever. And so what is wrong with the internet, best beloved, at the Google level is, like, before we can be ethical about making projections of virtual reality, we have to first of all define say a finite set of systems applicable across Google, okay, for identifying in an objective way. In other words, a way that is respectful to the other guy, whoever the other guy happens to be. That's an objective way of looking at anything. Okay, that's the first error that we get into, is subjective versus objective. Some states are purely subjective, some states are purely objective in some disciplines, and there are some states that are balances between the two of them. That's where you get into a spectrum. That's a whole different other problem. Okay, that has to do with, like, if there are boundaries, then, quote unquote, what are the boundaries between discipline X and discipline Y? Okay. But all right, so the error projection is, well, because I believe that I'm absolutely correct about whatever the proposition, that gives me the right to force the consent of the other guy. The error of rejection, in completely, scientific terms, the error of rejection is the arrogance that comes from the emotional basis of an a priori premise. Okay, so basically, if such and such an individual is rejecting what I have to say because they've come to a conclusion of their own, by reasoning of their own, that what I am saying, quote unquote, is not objectively true, okay, just because it is subjectively true for them, okay, then basically there is an error of rejection that we need a middle ground null set in science to deal with that. Okay, we need a middle ground null set to deal with that. Okay, attention Google engineers. This is basically what I'm calling for. And see, even this is about respecting, the current state of the matrix as it is. Take pure binary computing is what helped develop this matrix. Maybe there are possibilities within, say, nanotech. Okay, this is one of the really scary ones, because you get into things like, the Borg versus, say, the $6 million man. But the potential is maybe there are like multi-value logic possibilities available in like nanotech. Okay, but again, even raising the question. See, to me, applying nanotechnology to a person is, as far as I understand it, that's by definition forcing a mind. That's already a nightmare. See? So again, we're getting to the boundaries of conception. I don't want to have to deal with all this all by myself, because it's very, very hard. Okay? I'm crossing into magics that I have no business. This is not my lane, as Joel Osteen would say. Okay, this is not my lane. Okay, by one very minor result I got from YouTube. Okay, I decided to assume that, for example, Google was making me the offer that, okay, we can set your career up if you will cooperate with us in building the software based on whatever your ideas are. Okay, now I got that from a commercial advertisement based on, entirely different commercial products. But you see, I'm learning to read the symbolic magic in YouTube just to get my points made. Okay, so like this is the highest territory I've been able to take. Okay, do you know when I will have my subjective version of like all the money in the world? When I will have my subjective version of all the money in the world is when I can define myself to Google. Okay, I'm just barely starting to get indications that I can define myself to Google. And it doesn't have to do with, am I ready for human traffic yet? See, it's spiritually, it may actually be a mistake to try and throw, my own money at the problem until I can get something developed from the bottom up, so to speak. Okay, but see, here's the paradox. I have to develop something sufficiently strong that literally that Google becomes interested in it. Okay, and it starts drawing, voluntary participants to the research. Right now, I have 12. By the sheer numbers, I have 12 subscribers on the YouTube channel. I have exactly one registered Veritasian citizen. Okay, in that this person has committed to the project so deeply that he has decided that he's on board with me no matter what it becomes. Okay, now that's one of the first principles of discipleship that we'll get into. I believe that Jesus, if anything, taught a one-on-one impact before you get to the level of, okay, basically, let's first of all, Jesus had to grow up and be by himself. The classical metaphor for being by himself was like the temptation by the devil in the desert. All right. Then there comes a point where he was, baptized / anointed for his own ministry by someone who was effectively a member of his own family. Okay, research the history of John the Baptist. No time to go into that. Okay, then he goes out and gradually he's calling 12 men to be around him. Okay, and that is what I would have learned to call like an inner circle mastermind. Okay, with apologies to the wizards. You know who you are. But anyway, so like the first 12 disciples were called, and then the way that went is eventually Jesus gets crucified. Okay, because he's functioning at a macro level that is, at very least annoying Caesar and Caiaphas and all those people. Okay, so Jesus gets crucified. Then we get a time gap of some 30 years, and eventually the men Jesus called, okay, are developing the disciples of their own. That's the church in Acts. Okay, that's the church in Acts. Now, I don't want you to concentrate for now on the miracles as they were manifested in Acts, because that would be the wrong level. What I'm saying is, Jesus called 12 disciples, then eventually those disciples called disciples of their own, who became the church, who became the churches, who became the history of Christendom. Okay? And basically that's where it's going.